Though music critics are not known to have a great deal in common always, today's guests are exceptions. All three look like mild-mannered, soft-spoken gentlemen of the old school, and yet when they're in the mood, they're handy with a very vitriolic pen, or perhaps I should say a vitriolic typewriter. In any case, here they are in alphabetical order. Max de Chaunzé, music critic of the Philadelphia Evening Bulletin; Irving Culloden, associate editor of the Saturday Review and head of that magazine's music review department; and Winthrop Sargent, music critic for the New Yorker magazine. I think that Francis Robinson, with his program of biographies in music, has been leading us into some surprising nooks and crannies of Metropolitan Opera history, and specifically into the early days of recording and Mr. Edison's invention of the cylinder. We're going to play you, gentlemen, one of these primitive cylinders now. And the first thing we're going to ask you to do is guess who the singing artist is, and we'll give you the full question about it afterwards. But let's have the cylinder first. I wish you could see the looks of amusement and puzzlement. Mr. Culloden's hand goes up.
I would say her name must be anonymous, because the quality of the art wouldn't have lasted as long as the recording.
Well, that's an interesting comment. Is there a guess as to the identity of this artist? Mr. de Chaunzé.
I really can't guess who it is, though I'm very well acquainted with such records. I know it isn't Nordica, and I know it isn't Fremstadt.
Mr. Sargent, what's your reaction to this?
I'm afraid I haven't the slightest idea. I mean, one could guess.
Well, if I may interrupt you, if you are all really that puzzled, I think we'll go right on. Yes, Mr. Culloden, do you have...
Is it an authentic record of the period, or is it a qualifiedly authentic record?
Well, this is a real cylinder, but we're going to give you a hint since it is difficult. We played a sort of a trick, and we're going to play you the latter part of this same excerpt, recorded recently by the same artist on an LP stereo recording. The hands all went up. Mr. Sargent?
It could only be Birgit Nilsson. Nobody else.
Mr. de Chaunzé?
I think it's Kirsten Flagstaff.
I would say so, too.
Would you? Well, now, this is extremely interesting because Mr. Sargent was right. This is Birgit Nilsson, who very obligingly came up the other day for us and made, we've had so much talk about cylinders, she made on an old cylinder machine. She made this recording at the beginning of Du bist Lenz from the Walküre. It took us several weeks and many, many scouts to locate a old cylinder machine that was still functioning. The museums mostly had non-functioning exhibits and so on. And we didn't give up, and we finally found a man, Mr. Paul Charosh of Brooklyn, who calls himself a recording antiquarian. And we got Mr. Richard Wojtak, assistant conductor of the Met, to come up and accompany Miss Nilsson. And she very graciously recorded on this cylinder phonograph that was originally in use around 1898. and we got a blank cylinder, which itself was around 60 years old, and made this. And I think it is an interesting comment on the puzzle that many of our... Mr. Deschamps, do you want to...
Maybe not 1898, but some of the cylinders in the 1905-1907 period were very good indeed.
Well, some of them were, but I think since your reactions were all so puzzled, you might like to hear what Miss Nilsson's own reaction was when she listened to this playback of this thing that you just heard on the cylinder. We had a tape recorder there also, and this was her reaction when she heard it.
Oh my, that's terrible. I will never laugh again when I hear an old recording.